who have an interest in and an expertise in foreign policy broadly conceived, but also then to bring in outside speakers, experts in academia, in business, in government, in journalism, who can also contribute to the debate, to the discussion about where the world is, where it's going, and with a particular focus on foreign policy. And we have a number of people, as I say, on campus who are in this general field. We have also a current events class, which I want to draw to your attention, those of you who are students. A current events class for undergraduates. We also provide startup funding, other kinds of resources for faculty and graduate students who want to work in this general area. We have a new postdoctoral fellowship program, which I'm quite proud of. Our first two postdocs are here this year in the Einaudi Center, again on this general theme. And we have a distinguished foreign policy speaker series, which brings in outside speakers on a regular basis. I know many of you have been to our distinguished speaker series, and we will have several more next semester. I urge you to keep your eye out for those. Today, however, we are here for the 6th annual Lund Critical Debate. And today's subject, as you all know, is deaths by drone. We are extremely grateful at the Center to Judith Lund Biggs, class of 1957, for her generosity, her foresight, the vision that she brings to this enterprise, and of course for making all of this possible. She has, I think, through this generosity and through this particular debate series, enhanced what we're able to do at Cornell in bringing people together to discuss issues of importance in international affairs, and we're very grateful. And in particular because it involves not just faculty, or graduate students, but also undergraduates in various ways. Judith Lund Biggs is a 1957 Cornell graduate who majored in American Studies and Government. She earned a master's degree in Foreign Affairs from the University of Virginia and has maintained a lifelong interest in issues of issues relating to international affairs. She serves on the board of the Foreign Policy Association, a nonprofit organization dedicated to increasing public awareness on matters relating to foreign policy. We are so pleased and so honored that Judith is able to be here this evening together with her grandson, Nick Biggs-Chiropoulos, who is a student here at Cornell. And on behalf of the university, I want to thank Judy for establishing this critical debate series, for providing our community with these stimulating and much discussed series, topics, and events. And if I could ask Judy Biggs to stand just for a moment, I would be very grateful. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. What I want to do now is introduce Matthew Evangelista, who is moderating today's debate and who will introduce our two distinguished guests, Professors Michael Lewis and Marion O'Connell, as well as our discussant, Jens David Ohlin. Matt Evangelista is President White Professor of History and Political Science in Cornell's Department of Government. He is the author of numerous books, including Law, Ethics, and the War on Terror, published in 2008. He has also written articles that have appeared in many scholarly journals, as well as magazines such as The Nation and Harper's. He has served on the editorial board of Cornell University Press, as well as journals including World Politics and International Organization. He has a PhD, this Professor Evangelista, from Cornell's Government Department, and an undergraduate degree from Harvard College. I also want to say that Matt is, one of the things that I really appreciate about Matt is that he has in his approach, but also in his work, a capacity to bring interdisciplinary interests and expertise to the table. Hence his title, Professor of History as well as Government, a real historical focus in terms of his work in political science, which I think is rare and is much appreciated, certainly by me. I'm delighted that he has joined us today and has agreed to moderate this debate. And I ask you now to join me in welcoming Matthew Evangelista.
Thank you, Fred. So my task is to introduce our topic and then the participants. Let me start with the title of the debate, Deaths by Drone, Are They Illegal? Some of you may have found the wording a little unusual. Aren't we debating the legality of drones? No, we're not. Why not? The systems we colloquially call drones are more formally known as unmanned aerial vehicles or remotely piloted aerial vehicles. They're not illegal. Used as weapons, they have been around in more primitive form since the beginning of modern air power about a century ago. During World War II, the United States experimented with using old B-17 and B-24 bombers as radio-guided drones, they used the word then, to attack German targets. The idea was to load the planes with bombs, fly them for short distances, then the pilots would parachute out and the planes would continue on their way. The experiments were dangerous and not very successful and resulted in the deaths of several U.S. test pilots. One of them was Joseph P. Kennedy, Jr., the older brother of John F. Kennedy, whose own death we commemorate tomorrow on its 50th anniversary. So drones as weapons are not illegal per se. There are no international treaties banning them, such as we have with landmines or cluster munitions, for example. They've been used extensively in war, especially by the United States in Vietnam and by Israel since the 1973 Yom Kippur War. The other point worth stressing is that most drones are not weapons. The vast majority of the 20,000 drones in service are used for reconnaissance and surveillance. Advances in computer technology and miniaturization have made it possible for these systems to loiter in the air with high-tech cameras and sensors transmitting real-time information for hours on end. The main advantage of drones from the U.S. perspective is that there's no risk to the operators. They can be located thousands of miles from the target area. The U.S. operates drone bases at home and abroad. There are some 64 bases in the United States, including 3 in New York State. Worldwide, there are now about 800 different models of drones in use. If you want your own, you have a choice of about 18 on Amazon.com alone. Some 87 countries have drone programs, although only a fraction of that number uses them as weapons so far. Some non-state actors have drones too, Hezbollah, for example. The main drones that the United States uses as weapons are known as the Predator and the Reaper. Technically, they are not weapons themselves, despite their scary names, but weapons platforms. The weapons they typically carry are Hellfire air-to-surface missiles with an explosive yield of 100 pounds, but the latest models of the MQ-9 Reaper can also carry bombs with yields of 500 pounds or even 2,000 pounds. So what is the controversy about? And why are we having a debate? The controversy is mainly over a practice that has become known as targeted killing. It does not refer to soldiers killing other soldiers on a battlefield in a recognized armed conflict. The people targeted are typically not soldiers as traditionally defined, or located on a conventional battlefield, or participating in the kind of armed conflict for which the laws of war were developed. The people carrying out the killing from the U.S. side have often included members of the regular armed forces, U.S. Air Force pilots, for example, but sometimes not. There's considerable controversy over whether the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, or even private contractors hired by the CIA, should be engaged in such killing, and they have been. Just in these three questions, who is a legitimate target? Where can people be targeted for drone strikes? And who can legally carry out a killing? We have plenty of material for a lively debate among legal specialists. Our focus today will be mainly on the first two questions. One factor that has hindered productive debate on this topic is that the basic facts about the drone policy and its effects are poorly known or in dispute. As far as we know, the administration of George W. Bush set the precedent for targeted killing by drone in November 2002. A CIA Predator drone based in Djibouti attacked an SUV on a highway in Yemen, killing 6 al-Qaeda suspects, including one U.S. citizen from Buffalo, New York. Drone strikes increasingly drew public attention during the first Obama administration because of reports of attacks in countries such as Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia that caused civilian casualties. One cause of concern was the impression that the Obama administration had dramatically stepped up the numbers of drone attacks compared to